First poem is titled Silence of the Messengers. We hear only hush of wings, these angels who sweep around us, never a word spoken, never a sword drawn. Though their voices be strong, their hearts brave, knowing we would not remember if they spoke, would not remember one soft word, nor recall one fiery blow. So, we greet them only with heart beats, as is the way of our kind, as is the way of this unknowing mind. Thank you. I've got a book very recently published, Heartbreak Ridge. Wonderful cover art by Talia Sisson, and the book would not exist without the editing by Pia Gallegos. And if you'd like a copy, we'll have some for sale over here. This poem about dispossession is inspired by the old Irish ballad, Dear Old Skibbereen, which tells how a village was all but destroyed by famine and greedy landlords. At least 8,000 people died back in the 1840s. And how people yearned both for revenge and for peace, but most of all, for return. I call it New Skibbereen because we all long to return home sometime or other, wherever home may be. And because, history moves in cycles, doesn't it? The poem also touches on what might happen to anyone who was so bold as to try to remove the protective toothed female symbol from the old Irish churches. They call that the Sheila na gig. Ireland is often referred to as a woman, such as Erin or Granuaia. I tossed a few old songs into the mix here, such as Oro, which is a rebel call to arms that says in Irish, hold on, for the spring is coming. New Skibbereen. Oh, child, I loved my native land with energy and pride till a blight came over on my prats. My sheep and cattle died. The rent and taxes were so high I could not them redeem. And that's the cruel reason why I left old Skibbereen. So that's how they sang back in the bad old days for Erin's sake. And we all look back on the old country with a yearning eye, like Christy Moore sings, everybody needs a break, hike in the mountains, swim in the lake. Liam Neeson himself sang a bit of that song in that grand rebel movie, Michael Collins. And he's a fine figure of a man, no mistake. Seems the songs then were mostly about going away, but now the Irish are welcoming the world and his wife back for the gathering. Now they seem to have found peace, but peace comes dropping slow, This tribe's fire falls not far from the smoldering tree when we rage, swear, break up the crockery. It's not that complex or romantic. At root, it's not really about the whiskey at all, for all last night's fun. That booze is just fused to the hard detonator charge, the IED, if you will, as Yeats said, made stone by too long a sacrifice in the weary world's flow. The high temper, the warp spasm built up from scraps of sad memory, priests' empty plates and icy hearts, nuns' despairing tears, and shards of shattered love and pride denied through confessional repression, stake jail, starvation and evictions, and home places occupied, renamed, rechristened, grabbed by foreign capital or arms or ideology, without due apology and nearly forgot, almost lost beyond the pale of living memory. Chaki Allah, our day will come. Bobby Sands, that dying soldier, prisoner, poet, starving, hemmed in, gasped back in 1981. Hunger, another fine rebel movie, that. It's about space, about room, and Lord knows we'll put up with a lot of crowding. Like when Ratzinger's musty Roman Korea sends a wee pristine across the wine-dark wild sea to plant his bed in our own back room, invading once again our most personal space. And he offers us in payment his lilting prayers of healing, of patience, of acceptance, of accommodation to our economic fate and the politicians' and bishops' only human errors, along with a quiet rosary, a Gaelic folk mass, collections for the African missions, hopes of clerical vocations, and liberation theology, plus a recommended better diet, vegan no doubt, with our blessings after all to count, and go to more, the great hunger being so long buried in the past, and potatoes, glory be, no longer scarce, thanks surely to our never eating meat on Fridays and always keeping the faith. Well, you know, for all that, it might have gone on as ever it did around here. We were, after all, looking forward to the gathering and lifting a pint in the bars like everybody else. At least we're not on Cyprus, thank our lucky stars. But then, that wee priest, the simple holy fool, went and he tried to pry our secret Sheila Nagig out of the ruined church wall. And there was stern comment about that. In shaded corners, no outsiders, no exist. Nana Herring, the wise women of Ireland. We'd near forgotten them ourselves, in truth. Some stones shall not be moved, and so they found that poor, cursed young fella, mad as a goat in moonlight, lost in some farmer's rocky field in a fairy fort in the county Cork, turning and turning on his heels in widening gyration, round and round, all alone, so very alone, muttering to no one his rescuers could see about cuculins smoking forked tree and the four scorched, severed heads up in its branches. He was very bad in his head, they said, yet somehow not quite dead. They led him away and asked us to pray for him and themselves, and so on Paddy's Day, even deep in glum Lent, we do pray for time to pay the rent, time to plow and plant, time to rise one more time, at long last aware that it's high time to cease all this bloody, useless prayer. For it's coming on Easter now, boyo, when we'll give off with their Latin prayers, stuff them under the dark back stairs, and simply sing in our own vulgar, native, pagan, unchurched Dharma voice, as lovely drunken Mangan sing, as blind poet Raftery sang, as cutthroat queen Grace O'Malley and Brendan Behan sang, and every breath they drew, as Sinead O'Connor, Damien Dempsey, Shane McGowan, Flann O'Brien, Liam O'Flaherty, Porrick Pearson, Peter O'Donnell, as lovely Jim Sheridan and Malachi McCourt, as all the Banshees and Colleens and Molly Malones and Molly Maguires, and even dear dead James Joyce on his best night might have sung, "Oh, Roshedobah Boya." Oh, mother dear, I long to hear you speak of Erin's Isle. Her lofty scenes, her valleys green, her mountains rude and wild. They say it is a lovely place to raise a laughing child, so that's the fairest reason to return to Skibbereen. Ganya moya, agus milagashak, ag fegat faine egelech. Ganya with 1,000 soldiers comes to drive away the enemy. Hold on, for the spring is coming. Or, as some learned Yankee author once asked, who's Irish anyway? Who cares? And who can tell? And I want to thank Pamela and Jeannie and everybody here for letting me get up on the stage. Last poem. For nobody. This poem is not me. This flight may be fancy, but it ain't my worry if I fall. Don't fret. This text is not you either. We can fly free in this song, whoever we may be. This go-around, forget your parachute. Gracias.